Guitarist Ace Frehley, one of the founding members of the rock group Kiss, has died. He was 74. Ace Frehley, the iconic spaceman of Kiss, has died at the age of 74. But what shocked fans even more than the death was what Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons said afterward. And it was those confessions that changed the way the world looked at Kiss. Why did the two people who once kicked Ace off the stage now call him irreplaceable? In this video, you will hear every shocking statement, every event that led to a turning point, and every relationship behind the spotlight. On October 16, 2025, Ace passed away at Morristown Medical Center in New Jersey at the age of 74. His family confirmed the cause of death was complications from a traumatic brain injury after a fall in a recording studio near his home. His death closed a journey of more than 5 decades in music and opened the final chapter for the legacy of one of the most iconic guitarists in rock history. I leave my satisfaction. According to medical reports, the accident occurred on the evening of September 25th. Ace was in his private recording studio when he slipped and fell, hitting his head on a recording device. He was rushed to the emergency room with an intracranial hemorrhage and fell into a coma. Doctors determined that he had a severe brain hemorrhage and required emergency surgery to relieve the pressure. After the surgery, Ace regained consciousness briefly but quickly fell back into a coma due to spreading complications. His family, including his ex-wife Jeanette Terratola and daughter Monique, immediately arrived at the hospital. For 3 weeks, they took turns staying by his bedside, waiting for signs of recovery. Medical sources said Ace was put on a ventilator and kept alive with life support equipment. But despite intensive care, his neurological response did not improve. By October 10th, the main treating doctor confirmed that the possibility of recovery was almost zero. Ace had been physically fit, but had faced health problems in the past due to alcohol and stimulants, car accidents, and drug overdoses. You know, the whole 9 yards, right? And then there were the women. Yeah. But in recent years, he had been living a moderate life and performing regularly. Before his fall, Ace had just finished his last show in early September, marking the end of the tour promoting the album 10,000 Volts. Those on the team described him as cheerful, productive, and talking about plans to record 2 new songs. No one expected that a few weeks later he would be hospitalized. On October 4th, the management team officially announced the cancellation of the entire remaining tour. In a statement posted on social media, Ace's representative said he needed long-term rest as directed by the doctor. At the same time, false rumors about his health condition appeared, forcing the family to issue a statement asking for respect for privacy. The final statement before his death affirmed, Ace is fighting strong, is being well cared for, and always receives love from his family. After nearly 3 weeks in the hospital, all medical efforts had brought no progress. On October 15th, the doctor suggested the family consider removing the ventilator. After a closed-door meeting, the decision was made the following morning. At 8:17 a.m. on October 16th, Ace stopped breathing. The official report listed the cause of death as cerebral hemorrhage complications from head trauma. The family released a statement the same day, writing, "We are devastated and heartbroken." In his final moments, he was surrounded by love, prayers, and kind words. We cherish all the beautiful memories and kindness he shared with everyone. His passing is a loss of epic proportions beyond words. One detail that has been widely repeated is Ace's last conversation on an interview program earlier this year. When asked about his health, he laughed and said that a psychic had told him he would live to be 100. After his death, the words were seen as a symbol of optimism, reflecting the true nature of his personality: tenacious, humorous, and fearless. From a professional perspective, Ace still has many unfinished plans. He once talked about releasing his next album in 2026 and planned to collaborate with 2 young artists he had mentored. The rough recordings for that project are still saved on his personal computer. His representatives said they are working to arrange a release according to his wishes, but have not announced a specific time. Ace's passing has made many people realize that the cycle of Kiss, a band once considered immortal, has officially ended. Ace was the first member of the original lineup to pass away. For 50 years, he was the image of improvisation in music, full of personality and full of adventure. His end means that a part of the group's history has also ended. When Ace's death was confirmed, Paul and Gene were among the first to release official statements. This time, they spoke about him in a completely different way than they had in years. Paul called Ace a core part of the first chapter of the group, irreplaceable and ever-present in Kiss history. This was the first time Paul had used the term irreplaceable for Ace in an official statement. Previously, in many interviews, he had emphasized that Kiss is an idea that transcends individuals. The change in tone was a clear shift, coming after Ace had left the music scene for good. Gene chose simpler but no less definitive words. "No one could have done what Ace did. We never denied it, and there's no one left to say it directly." The statement appeared in a short recording after a private memorial service without the press, but was republished by the band's media department. Gene's attitude was calmer, but the content was completely clear. The two did not hold a press conference, did not go on television to express their feelings. But what they announced alone was enough to put an end to the way they had kept their distance from Ace after 2002. For many years, Ace was no longer mentioned on tour, not invited to perform with the band, and his image was often replaced by new members. After Ace's death, that changed. The joint statement was released with the first line, "We are completely devastated by Ace's passing." The second line, "He was an irreplaceable rock warrior in the early years of the band's formation." This was an affirmation without conditions, without analyzing the reasons for the separation, without talking about conflicts or justifying past decisions. They chose to address Ace's role directly, even if it meant re-examining how they had worked with him. There was no public memorial, but Paul and Gene's statements were spread across all Kiss platforms. The group's official social media accounts changed their avatars to Ace in his 1977 Spaceman avatar. It was the first time since 2002 that the image had been brought back without Tommy, Ace's replacement for many years. Beneath the statements, several brief recollections were shared. One of them was Paul recounting the moment he first saw Ace at an audition in 1973. "I saw this guy in a leather jacket and mismatched shoes walk in. I didn't know who he was, but I was hoping he was the next member. And he was Ace. There was no mention of past riffs or public apologies. But the choice of words, the placement of images, and the timing of their silence suggests that Paul and Gene have reshaped how they want Ace to be perceived, from a former member to an integral part of the group's legacy. The return of Ace to the center of Kiss's media is seen as a clear restorative move. Previously, Ace's image had barely appeared on reissues or documentaries owned by the group. After October 16th, all homepage designs, digital disc covers, and ticketing platforms were black with a single message: "Forever Spaceman." Some people who worked on Kiss's technical team confirmed that Paul and Gene requested that the entire archive be updated to include Ace's early performances as a priority in the video catalog. This was not announced but took effect within 72 hours of Ace's death. In internal memos circulated among the production team, Paul wrote, "I expect everything related to Ace to be treated with absolute respect. No cuts, no blurring, no replacements." This was accompanied by an additional request. The original live track "Shock Me" with Ace's guitar be restored to digital music platforms. But the rift in the relationship between Ace, Paul, and Gene did not happen quietly or suddenly. It was clearly formed through each stage, each decision, each public statement. And unlike many other bands, all conflicts within KISS were always confirmed by the insiders themselves. Ace joined the band in 1973. During the selection process, he was the one who made the strongest impression, not only because of his guitar-playing ability, but also because of his unique personal style. He was the one who created the image of Spaceman, one of the 4 foundational characters of KISS. That image, along with the distinctive guitar sound, quickly became synonymous with the group. From the very first albums, Ace was a key part of the band's overall sound. Songs like Cold Gin, Shock Me, and Rocket Ride all bore his distinct stamp. But behind the scenes, tensions began to appear between him and the other 2 members. Paul and Gene were always the main drivers of the band's activities. Ace repeatedly felt that all the major decisions were made without his say. In an interview, he said, "I can't do anything when everything is decided before I walk into the room." This was not just his feeling, but also part of KISS's history, where the 2 executives have always played a central role. In 1978, KISS released 4 solo albums simultaneously, 1 for each member. Ace's album was the only one to achieve major commercial success. The hit song New York Groove put him in the spotlight at a time when all the attention had previously been on Paul and Gene. This made the relationship even more sensitive. From the late 1970s, Ace began to be absent from many group decisions. He fell into a state of alcohol and drug abuse. In the book Behind the Mask, Paul wrote that Ace was often late and even forgot his set. Gene once said Ace's judgment was always affected, and that hasn't changed in years. These statements were made official and have never been corrected. In 1982, Ace left KISS after the album Music from the Elder failed commercially. Although he claimed it was for personal reasons, insiders understood that the reason lay in Ace feeling left out of the operating system. After that, KISS continued to operate with replacement members. But Ace always insisted. That's when KISS lost its original identity. After that, Ace went solo with Frehley's Comet. He continued to perform and release albums, but he often referred to the old conflicts. In a post on social media, Ace declared, "They don't want me to succeed. They do everything they can to make me look like I can't be trusted." These words were not disputed by Paul or Gene. In 1996, Ace returned to KISS for a reunion tour. It was the first time the group had performed with the original lineup in years. The tour was a record-breaking success, but behind the scenes, the old problems reappeared. Paul and Gene enforced stricter discipline, image control, revenue sharing, and health checks than ever before. This made Ace feel under surveillance. In a behind-the-scenes recording, he said, "I'm not a soldier, and I didn't sign a contract to be watched every day." In 2002, after the last tour with all 4 founding members, Ace left the group. The main reason he gave was that he no longer trusted the manager. Meanwhile, Paul claimed that Ace wasn't committed enough. Gene said that Ace left the tour because he couldn't handle the pressure. From then on, the 3 of them didn't appear on stage together. In the following years, the conflict turned in another direction: ownership of the image and symbol. Paul and John continued to use the Spaceman character for shows, but let a new member take over. Ace didn't accept this. He once said, "I created the character. They can't put a new face on something that is associated with me." The incident turned their relationship from personal tension to a legal and trademark conflict. In 2014, KISS was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ace did not perform with the group. "I don't have to stand next to someone who called me useless to get a title I deserve," he declared at a press conference. Paul did not respond to the statement. Gene said, "We respect what he has contributed, but we also have the right to move on." In the years since, Ace has refused all offers to reunite. He claims the terms are unclear and coercive. When asked about the possibility of sharing the stage with the group one last time, Ace replied, "It's not because I don't want to. It's because I can't accept the way they treat me like an outsider. Paul and Gene have never directly apologized to Ace in any interviews, but in recent statements, both have mentioned missing out on moments that should have been. A podcast recording that went viral in early 2024 has Paul saying, "I don't know if it's worth holding on to something that's been unpleasant for so long." This is one of the rare times he doesn't deny the role of personal conflict within the group. For nearly 50 years, Ace has been the one who stuck together, but also the one who was left out of the center. The relationship between him and the other two was not hidden. It was always present in every sentence, every decision, every refusal to shake hands, and it was these things that made it clear why their separation was irreversible. Underneath it all, there was one thing that never changed. Who laid the foundation for Kiss's identity in the first place? It wasn't about contracts, sales, or positions. It was about the roots, where it all began. And that part, none other than Ace. Ace was the last person to be selected for the original Kiss lineup. His 1973 audition brought him into the band not just because of his guitar skills, but because of something no one else had. He was unlike anyone else before him. He didn't copy anyone. He didn't follow a formula. He came in, plugged in the amp, and played like it was his own thing. Paul once recalled that moment. "I looked down from the railing and thought, I wish that person was in the band." It was Ace. Soon after he was cast, Ace developed the character of Spaceman, the alien with the guitar. This was an integral part of the early image of Kiss. Although Paul and Gene often changed the direction of the group, Ace always kept his own style. He was quiet. He didn't participate in management, but he was the one who helped the band maintain its identity in live performances. The recordings that clearly bear Ace's fingerprints are often on the songs considered different in the Kiss discography: Shock Me, Strange Ways, Hard Times, all of which he wrote and performed himself. They were unlike the rest. They felt raw, unedited, flawed, but real. When he sang, Ace wasn't trying to prove anything. He sang as if music were the only thing in the room. Ace's influence didn't stop with his recordings. Many famous guitarists credit him with being the reason they started playing. From Mike McCready to Tom Morello to John Five, all of them credit Ace with their roots, not because of his technique, but because of his free-spirited performance. He didn't need to be in the right place on stage, didn't need to be on beat, didn't need to follow a set schedule. Everything happened the way he wanted it to. Paul and Gene always ran Kiss as a long-term project. They focused on management, finances, and image. Ace was the opposite. He didn't plan things, didn't keep a tight schedule, wasn't always on time. This earned him complaints, even being called a troublemaker. But while the band became more and more of a commercial machine, Ace remained the last link between music and artistic freedom. When Ace left the band, he didn't take his contract with him. He brought the style, and for more than 20 years, it has been the same, on stage or in the studio. His solo records, from Frehley's Comet to 10,000 Volts, were unfashionable. They retained the spirit of a man who had nothing to prove to anyone. Paul and Gene could recreate the spaceman image by hiring someone else to dress like Ace, but they couldn't recreate the sound. They couldn't recreate the spontaneous, unplanned, unscripted feel. That's the difference. For years, the group continued without Ace. They performed, released material, expanded the brand into all sorts of areas, but the early Kiss live recordings, the ones with Ace, are still the most watched. Fans, old and new, go back to those days, not for the sound, but for the energy that was unmatched. Ace's legacy is not just in the records. It's in the image that has been associated with the youth of many generations. Anyone who picked up a guitar for the first time because they saw a man in a silver suit standing under purple and blue lights, all have a part of their memory named Ace. Not everyone keeps it, but almost everyone has it. With what has just been mentioned, the story of Ace is not just the journey of an artist leaving the stage, but also the end of an unrepeatable part of Kiss's history. If you've ever heard an Ace riff and found yourself wanting to pick up a guitar for the first time, or if you've ever watched them reunite and then fall apart, leave a comment below to share your feelings about this special character. Don't forget to like if you found this video valuable. Share it with your former Kiss fans and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the most honest and complete musical stories. Thank you for watching until the end.